Hello chess friends and welcome to Jozarov Chess Channel and welcome back to the Norway Chess Tournament in 2022. So we're following now this beautiful chess event. Yesterday we have seen this beautiful Blitz section, which is of course over. The winner of the Blitz section of the Norway Chess Tournament is now the top grandmaster Wesley. So Wesley played really awesome chess in the Blitz section because he had 5 consecutive wins in one particular moment of the tournament. So as I said, he is now the deserved winner and has now of course also some good chances in the classical time format section. So let's see now what happened in the day one. We are now in the classical time format tournament. We're now starting with a beautiful game again played by Wesley So against another top grandmaster Teimour Radjabov, and I think this game had again everything that we're supposed to see in a chess game. We have some beautiful strategical ideas of the Italian game, then we have also some theoretical novelties, and then we'll have also some beautiful middle game ideas which I think bother us many times. And especially I think if you're a beginner, then you want to also know about strategical concepts, about strategical ideas, about outposts, about positional trades of pieces. So these elements you'll see really in this game. So that's why I decided to start this tournament now with this beautiful positional game played by Wesley So against Teimour Radjabov. So here Wesley opened with the move e4. We have e5 by Radjabov, knight to f3, knight to c6, bishop to c4, and after bishop to c5 we have the Italian game. The Gioco piano is on the board. So we have here kingside castling, so normal development. We have knight to f6, d3, pretty standard stuff. So this is now really the classical system. We have now d6, and now with the move c3 white is preparing of course the breakthrough with the move d4. So we have here a5, and also a6 is a possibility, so you can play whatever you like. If you play a5, then of course you leave a little bit here a weak square on b5. If you play a6, then of course you have some opportunities to push the pawn on b5, but then you could also be kicked away with potential b4 move. So every move in this opening theory has some of its advantage, but also it has of course its disadvantage. So here a5 was played by Radjabov. So we have rook to e1, kingside castling in h3, preventing of course this annoying pin against the knight, because as we said we want to play d4. D4 is now the main strategical goal here. So here h6, also black does the same, not allowing here this pin, because in the near future black would love also to play something like bishop to e6, or even without the move bishop to e6, black wants to break through with the move d5. So we have here knight from b2 d2, we have bishop to e6, bishop to b5, now threatening of course to play bishop to c6, maybe messing up a little bit the pawn structure. But actually here Teimour Radjabov is saying okay, you can do it if you want to, because if bishop to c6 happens, then of course b takes c6. But I think this is not good for white, although you have created some structural weaknesses. You have created this double pawns on the c file, but in the near future I still think that black can go with this normal goal d5. Even d4 is a possibility. The bishop is a little bit stuck here because many times rook to b8 is going to happen. Then you have also some problems around the square b2. So in my opinion this is something that you should not do. So that's why knight to f1, so not taking out a knight immediately. Many times we want to also to reroute the knight on g3, maybe even to e3, and then use the square on f5. So we have here d5. So here Teimour Radjabov continues of course with this normal goal. We have bishop to e3, d takes e4, and here d takes e4. We have queen to e7, and now queen to e2. So both players are playing really solid chess here. We have by both players finished development. What I mean about the finished development is of course that every player has played with every minor piece so far in the game, has secured the king by castling, and has also finished the third stage in the opening, which is of course the rook connection, now by maneuvering the queen from the first rank. So now every player here has a really good setup. This is how you should play openings in chess. So here in the continuation, after move queen to e2, we have a rook to d8, of course getting use of the open file. Whenever you see that open file we have here, then you should occupy it immediately and compete with your rook. So here we have a rook from e to d1, so here Wesley So does the same, a4, and we have now queen to c2, maneuvering the queen here on this side of the board and attacking also the weak pawn on a4. So we have here a3 and now b4, and here I think Wesley is taking over a little bit. I like now this concept because we have now at least some kind of a tempo. Probably what black should do here is maybe a bishop to e3, then knight to e3, and okay, you could maybe try some outposts, but in the near future, if knight to d5, knight to f5 happens, still this bishop is controlling this square. So in the near future, we can also play knight to b6 and control further the square d5. Also, g6 is an opportunity maybe to not allow this knight to come into the game. So still in this scenario, black can actually battle for this weak squares d5 and f5. But here after move b4, bishop to d6 was played. So here Teimour Radjabov tried to stay with the minor pieces on the board. We have now knight to d2, and now comes the main mistake I think in the game, which is really incredible how tough really chess can be, because knight to b6 is now really maybe not a blunder, maybe not even a mistake. It's sort of an inaccuracy, but in top grandmaster level, I think sometimes this is simply enough. Because what we can notice now, as I said, the knight on b6 is controlling the d5 square, is controlling also the f5 square in the near future could be occupied, as I said. But now Wesley plays a beautiful positional trade of pieces, bishop to b6. After c takes b6, notice that the d5 square is now really a weakness, because you cannot push anymore the pawn on c6 and control further the d5. So this is now huge problem, and this was, I think, the main mistake of Teimour Radjabov in this game. As I said, chess can be really tough. You don't have to be really a great tactician in chess. Sometimes realizing the possibility of an outpost in chess is simply enough. So now it's a simple battle for the d5 square, and here, as I said, by trading off the knight that is controlling the d5 square, but also maneuver removing the pawn from the c file, then the c file, the c pawn cannot control the d5 square. It's now really beautiful idea here by Wesley. So, and from this point on, he has now really comfortable game, because you see now how he'll simply battle for the structural weakness here on d5. So here we have bishop to c4. So now every move is a simple battle for this particular square on the board. Really beautiful positional game by Wesley. So rook to c8, queen to e2, knight to d8, and now bishop to e6. If you play, of course, f takes e6, then knight to c4 is really dangerous. Look at this. This pawn is weak on e5, this pawn is weak on e6. So although you have maybe solved a little bit the problems around the square f5, around the square d5, this is something that you should not do. The bishop is endangered. You will lose, I think, the battle here immediately. So it's, I think, position that you can resign. So after move bishop to e6, we have queen to e6, and now comes a beautiful maneuver, knight to f1. Now we want to play knight to e3, knight to d5. As we said, it's a simple battle for one particular square, and black cannot even compete anymore for the square, because the dark square bishop is here. It's just blocked out by its own pawns. You don't have a light square bishop anymore that could control the d5 square. As we said, with this beautiful trade of pieces, you don't have the c pawn anymore. You can't control it. From this point on, Wesley simply taking it over, and has now really beautiful game. So we have here bishop to f8, now knight to e3, f6, and now look at this, knight to d5. The only piece that could maybe attack the knight here in the near future is maybe the knight by maneuvering maybe knight to c6, knight to e7, but still we can play something like rook to b1, and still we can support this centralized knight with the potential c4 move. Then we'll have really a nice centralized grip. Or we can also maneuver maybe this other knight, maybe with some ideas, knight to d2, knight to f1, and knight to e3, getting also this other knight that could control the d5 square. So what you should do in this positions, you should just stuck to your plan, just compete for the d5 square. So here in the continuation, we have knight to f7, we have knight to d2, rook to a6, and now rook from a to b1, and here b5 was played by Teimour Radjabov. He tried now this maneuver, queen to b5. He tried now to kick away the queen, and with the move b5, he's trying now to control at least one square in the center of the board, the c4 square, but this is not good anymore, because this knight on d5 is simply too powerful. So we have here now rook from b to c1, we have rook to c6, rook to c2, and now f5. Okay, you could now play e takes f5, or you can play f3. I myself, I like more f3. This wasn't played in the game, but this is simply me. Probably even the Wesley continuations is much better, but I would probably play the move f3, because after f takes e4, still I would control the d5 square with the pawn, so I would support further my beautiful knight on d5. But Wesley play e takes f5, which is not a problem, because still he's controlling the knight in the center of the board. The queen is supporting the knight, the rook on the d file is also supporting the knight, so it's of course again a beautiful position for Wesley. So we have knight to f5, we have here knight to knight to b3, controlling also the d4 square, controlling also the c5 square. We have here rook to c4, and now knight to a5, attacking the rook. The rook is hanging, and we have now e4. And okay, many of us would retreat with the queen, but Wesley played a beautiful counterattack, rook to e2. And actually what you should do is take here. This is now maybe the only way to make something out of this position, but still white is again much better. If you play, for instance, e takes d3, then of course we can take out this one, queen to e3, rook takes the queen on e6, and now you should probably give up here the exchange. Rook takes c3, knight to c3, rook takes c3, and maybe with the rook to e4 white can defend this position. The pawn is of course here weakness, but you can defend it with the rook, and this should be probably again a winning position for white. Knight to b3 is going to happen. We can play knight to c5, attacking further this pawn, kick away the knight, attack maybe this pawn with another rook. So again, this should be much better continuation for white. But this was the only way to complicate things somehow in the continuation of the game. After this move, rook to e2, Teimour Radjabov didn't take the queen. He tried to build a queen battery, queen and rook battery here on the e file, but here Wesley so simply took. Knight takes c4, we have e takes c4, and here after rook to e6, rook to e6, and knight to a3 in this position, Teimour Radjabov resigned. So what to do if you try maybe rook to e5? You can take, of course, the pawn. You can maybe try a check, king to h2. Even if you cover, even if you create this check with bishop to d6, you can cover with g3, f4 is a possibility. So this is simply not working. We'll take out this pawn, and of course white is up the exchange, has also many more pawns, so it's completely winning endgame here for Wesley. So okay, beautiful game. I think it was maybe not the most tactical game, but this is how you win chess games. Let's go back to this critical moment of this beautiful game. So this is really the move that I like the most. After move here, knight to b6, bishop to b6, realizing that this pawn could actually, with the move c6, control the d file square. Now the pawn gets deflected from the c file, and now with the move bishop to c4, then with this beautiful maneuver, knight to e3, knight to d5, Wesley so occupied the d5 square with the centralized square and won the game with a beautiful positional brilliancy. So okay, I hope that you enjoyed this game. I really enjoyed it a lot. This is a really beautiful positional chess, and if you want to see more commented chess games like this from some other tournaments, please check out my commented chat games series so far, with some other great games played by Wesley So, Teimour Radjabov, Magnus Carlsen, Vishy Anand, and all of these beautiful grandmasters that we love to see now these days. And if you like this content, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you soon with some more videos, and chess is the best, of course.